Oh, it's a pig! Welcome to the Lake Erie Kayak Anglers Podcast, the podcast designed to make you a better angler. I'm Chuck Earls from Lake Erie Kayak Fishing.com. Today we have Bobby Greene joining us. He's from Meals on Reelz Charters, one of the top-notch walleye charters on the lake. Bobby, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing really good. You actually just finished up a trip, a couple hours ago?
Yeah. Yep. Just got done cleaning the boat and just walked through the door, basically.
Nice. Looked like a father-son trip?
Yeah, it was actually father, son, and grandpa. So it was father, son, father, son.
That's awesome. 3 generations.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what you're fishing out of, that yard craft.
I am fishing out of a 2022 219 TFX. It's a yard craft. It's powered by a 300 Verado, and we have a 15 horse kicker and 36 volt Altera on the front.
And that's actually an upgrade from what you were running last year, right?
Yeah. Last year I was running a Tracker Targa, which despite its reputation, is very, very good boat for me. I've got over 500 hours on it and never had a lick of trouble out of it.
Yeah, they're decent boats. They seem to handle really well out there.
Yeah, it doesn't ride as good as the yard craft, of course, but I definitely got my money's worth out of it.
Right. And your clients were happy. They always seem to be smiling.
Yep, that's the goal.
So why don't, before we get into the fishing, tell me a little bit about yourself. You were born and raised in Sandusky.
Yep. Born and raised in Sandusky. Grew up pretty much fishing the banks of the Sandusky Bay. Did a lot of chasing after bass and rock bass and perch, catfish, whatever would bite from shore, basically. Didn't really start fishing out of a boat until I got older, and when we did, it was mostly perch. I didn't get into the walleye game until I was actually in my 20s, believe it or not.
Nice. How old are you now?
I'm 38. So yeah, a little later than probably most people, but I guess it worked out.
I think it's just the evolution of an angler. You know,
Yeah.
you start out chasing panfish and stuff like that, and then playing with the bass, and then eventually you find out about fish with teeth.
Yeah. You know what? I think the reason that I became so obsessed with them is because I couldn't catch them. When I put my mind to it that I wanted to catch a walleye, I was very unsuccessful. And then I tried the shoreline bite a couple of times. I'd see people catching them. I could not catch fish. So then I read about the runs in the Sandusky and Maumee rivers. And the first time I went to the river, I almost got a citation for fishing too early. So make sure you read up on your regs before you go fishing. I was out there probably a half an hour before sunrise, which is a no-no, actively fishing. And I hooked into one, but I had it in the belly. And I let it go, of course, and then I fished for another hour or so. Didn't catch anything. I was walking back to my truck, and the ODNR game warden actually was running me down, telling me to stop. So I stopped, and he asked me what time I got there, and I told him, and he asked if I caught anything, and I told him no, I snagged one, let it go. And the only reason I didn't get a ticket is because I didn't catch anything, and he saw me snag and release the fish. But from then on, it was I wanted walleye, and that was it. I ended up going to the Maumee, and the first walleye I caught, I actually limited out that day. And it was all, I guess you could say, downhill from there, throwing my money at these stupid things, trying to catch them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Lake Erie plays a trick on us. You know, the first time out, she gives you monster fish and nothing but limits. And then you go out and you don't do so good. So you're like, well, maybe I need some new baits.
Yeah.
So you start buying all kinds of different baits, different tackles, different tactics, and you realize, you know, some days the fish just don't cooperate.
That's right. You catch a few from shore, and then you think, if I had a boat, I don't need a big boat, just a boat to get offshore a little bit, catch them a little more, and then you need a little bit better boat or a little more equipment. It just keeps going. When does
Oh
it
yeah.
end? I don't know. I haven't hit that point yet.
I don't think it ever ends as long
I
as
don't
there's
think so either.
Lake Erie Walleye swimming around.
Yep, absolutely.
What's your favorite program to run?
I like dipseys a lot, just because it's something different, I think. I wouldn't say I have a favorite. Um, I really like to jig, probably because it's, such a seasonal thing. But I like it all. Jigging, casting, trolling. Dipseys are dipseys are good because you can get them down there quick, and it's fun to watch the rods go off when you get a fish on a dipsey.
Right. It also gets the line away from the boat too.
Right, right.
So you usually don't run boards with those?
No, no, dipseys are directional divers, so they have a weight on the bottom that you can, it's a ballast weight and it has settings on it. You can, if you run one on a 0 setting, that's going to go straight down. And if there's increment half mark increments. So if you ran one on a 0 setting and one on a 1 setting and another one on a 3 setting or 2, whatever, the weight displaces where it rides on the dipsey and will cause it to swing away from the boat. So they plane themselves, just they plane underwater,
Right.
basically. Yep.
That's
Yeah, it's a
interesting.
little different, but it's fun. I like it.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever run dipsies. I know my neighbor Jerry, that's his favorite thing to run. Um, it's interesting. I don't know. I guess up until this point, I was in the paddle craft, you know, the
Yeah,
pungo and then the pedal drive. And dipsy creates a lot of resistance, you
lots
know,
of
so
pull.
you
Yeah,
start pulling a couple of those things and you're getting
yeah,
quite a workout. But with the
absolutely.
torpedo, it could very well be an option. Especially on the days that it's say 1 foot or more, because my biggest challenge running boards on those days is I can't constantly watch the boards behind me. So I'm trying to
Right.
depend on the rod tips and stuff like that to identify the bite. So maybe a dipsy program would be the solution for that.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, that's what you're doing, is just watching rod tips. But they do pull, so you have to make sure your batteries are charged.
Oh yeah. With the Torpedo, it has GPS monitoring, so I know exactly how much battery, how much
Oh,
distance I have left, how much range
perfect.
at that speed. So it's kind of cool. I can go pretty fast, obviously, just like, you know, drag racing car. You're gonna burn through a lot of fuel when you got the throttle wide open.
Right.
Um, but you know, just trolling and stuff, my range is pretty much unlimited. And I carry a spare battery just in case, especially tournament fishing, because if I don't have the time and I need to really, you know, go 6'5" or 6'8" to a spot, um, I have that battery if I need it, but I've
Right.
never had to switch over. Not
I'll
yet.
tell you what, I saw you heading out of the harbor there this past tournament, and that thing looked like it would get up and go.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a great time. So much
Yeah,
fun.
looked like it.
So that was your first loot tournament also, right?
Yeah, that
In
was my
the Lake Erie
first
Walleye Trail.
tournament. Yeah, first tournament I've ever fished. It was it's a learning experience, but I had a lot of fun and did pretty well, I'd say. You know, we ended up in 8th place. Just couldn't find that one big fish that we needed. We were stuck in the 6 pound range. We had low sixes and high sixes, and we caught, I don't know, I think we caught 24, 25 fish that day. It's lots of 4 and 6. Just, but the day before I had a 10.5 out of there. And then of course the day after I had another 10 pounder, but not during the tournament. I couldn't find it.
It was definitely tough fishing. I
Yeah,
only picked up one fish. I know there was a handful of boats that didn't even catch any fish.
yeah.
So, you know,
Well,
handling that many fish and placing in 8th place is still really good.
yeah, I'm definitely not complaining. It's tournaments, fishing, I think it's a little bit of, it's skill, but I think a lot of it is just getting lucky and sitting on the right fish.
Yeah, I think it's more of an education than
Yeah,
anything. You know, you're gonna win. You might find the right fish, but really we're doing it just to learn and grow and dial it in even deeper.
yeah, absolutely. Just a different way to learn. It's similar to charter fishing because it's a lot of it is based off of decisions. You know, if I'm running a trip and we're not catching, do I pull them in? Do I troll another half an hour? Do I go east? Do I go west? Do I go in tighter? It's all decision. It's a big mental game, and it never fails that you're gonna have a day where, you know, it takes you hours to find a bite, and then you're thinking, man, I should have just did this, Monday morning quarterback type thing.
Right.
That's why I enjoy walleye fishing, is because there's days that it can be so easy, it's unreal. But even on Lake Erie, despite what they tell you, there are tough days on the lake. I don't know how many times I put a whole lot of miles on the boat trying to finding fish is not really that hard. It's finding ones that want to bite.
Right. Yeah, you can mark fish all day long, but you got to get on the active school to actually
Yeah.
get them to bite.
Yep. Yep. You could sit on a big school and try every technique or bait manufacturer that you want. If they're not, wanting to eat, there's nothing you can do. Pack up and keep moving, trying to find something.
Yep. You know, that's why it's important to try to run something different on every line you have out. You know, with me, I'm limited to 3 lines. And I think that's why the dipsey program would be really cool in the rougher water, because I can't run boards. I still want to run 3 lines. And what do I have? Maybe a 16-foot spread from tip to
Right.
tip.
Right.
But if I can do dipseys on the outside, that'll keep it out of my center line.
Yeah, and you can also adjust the depth without, you know, pulling your line all the way in, taking your board off, and then readjusting. You can just drop it or reel it up right there. You don't have it's really easy and
Right.
fast, pretty efficient. So yeah, I think if you can swing it, that you would enjoy it.
What kind of rod are you using for a dipsy? Like a medium heavy?
Medium heavy, yeah. if you're on a budget, Daiwa Wilderness rods, I think they're less than $20, and they hold up well. And I mean, it's not something that I use a whole lot, I wouldn't say a whole lot, but you figure I'm running 8 to 10 lines mostly on boards. And then I usually only run 4 dipseys. Unless the bite's really good, then I'll put more dipseys out. But with charter fishing, you got to be kind of careful with the dipseys, because you get people that are a little excited, and you can have a big ball of braided line real quick.
Right. And an hour of untangling and putting
Yeah.
lines back in the water.
Yeah, you tangle braid, and you might as well get the scissors out.
So back to the tournament. I wanted to ask you, because you've had a little bit of time to digest everything. What are a few things that you learned from this tournament?
I'd say the number one thing, which I had the advantage of listening to a lot of other professionals speak, and they always said to go with your gut. And we made a pretty decently long run. And, the day before, we're going here, but then the morning of, you get that little bit of doubt in your head, like, if I run all this way and the fish aren't there, then what?
Right.
But I stuck with, my gut, and it paid off. So that would be the thing, is make sure you go with your gut and have several backup plans just in case.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Partially because I made that mistake on tournament day. I mean, whether I would have caught fish or not, if I followed my plan, who knows? I know there were some guys fishing where I was going to fish, in the mud, and they caught fish, but I had planned on going out, just having lines in the water as long as possible. So I figured I'd head east, fish in front of the power plant stack. And I don't know, all the boats were out there, Jason was out there. I wanted to get a couple of cool videos and stuff. So I just kind of ran out. And by the time I came back in to check that spot, I left clean water to get into dirty water, talked myself out of that position, and went back out.
Yeah.
And, I only picked up one fish, but fortunately I at least picked up one.
Yeah.
But that would probably be my number one too, is, don't second guess yourself, follow your gut, follow the plan.
I know there in the afternoon in the mud, those fish started to fire, which is pretty common in the early spring, because at least I think, I'm not a biologist or an expert by any means, but a lot of times in the spring, these fish, they will come up off the bottom and be in that top 10 feet of water, because especially on a sunny day, because that sun warms the mud particles up, and that water warms up quick, and them fish come up there and they're more active. I know a lot of people I talked to said that they didn't have one single fish until 11:30, 12 o'clock. And then it was, things started happening.
Right.
So that's a little tip there. If you are fishing the early spring and in the mud, be patient, especially if the sun comes out. Then that's usually when they start to come up to the top and become more active.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think sometimes we forget about those fish that we're not marking on the fish finder because they're, in the top quarter of the water column.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I know last year, uh, it was a slow day. So I asked a few buddies how they were doing, and they were running leads of like 20 to 40. And I ended up going to where they were, didn't mark squat on the fish finder. So I text them, I'm like, there's no fish over here. They're like, no, set your lines out. They're there. They're just too high. You're not going to mark them. You can mark them if you're on a plane, on a boat, you'll see them. But when you're going trolling speed, you're probably not going to see those high fish. And we limited out in probably an hour and a half on leads of, like I said, 20, 25 to, I think my deepest lead was 60. But the fish were so high, you just didn't see them.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you have you ever tried to use side scan to mark them?
I have in shallow water. I wouldn't say that I use it a lot, but in the fall, if I'm running in shallow water or even in the spring, I'd say in water 12 feet or less, I will utilize the side scan because because of, if you think of how the sonar works, it's sending a cone out, and the deeper the water, the more coverage you're going to have. As the beam gets wider, and in shallow water, you might be looking at just a few feet as far as diameter, and it's really hard to mark fish that way. If you use side scan, you can see. I think I can mark out to 100 feet on both sides. So
Right.
yeah, I do utilize side scan. I hear a lot of people say, no, it's not, we'll never use that on Erie, blah, blah, blah. You do. There's times you can use side scan for sure.
I was just thinking when the fish are in the upper water column, because I know
Yeah,
you can dial that side scan in a little bit,
yeah,
but I don't know
absolutely.
how effective it would be in 50 foot of water.
Yeah, I would imagine if it's covering that top portion there, you would see them out there.
Yeah.
Never really thought of it. Like I said, I mostly use it in shallow water.
One thing that Michael Moken had mentioned was he uses side scan to find the bait schools.
Yeah,
And more importantly, the edges of the bait schools, because sometimes those walleye are sitting right on the edge of that bait school. So you could take that side scan, mark that bait school, mark it on your side scan, and then navigate to the edge.
right.
That's something I never knew I needed until then.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
There's been a lot of things that, you know, technology wise that come out, and I thought, all we need on Lake Erie is 2D. We will not use any of this other stuff. Well, I was wrong. And yeah, definitely side scan. And that is a good point of being outside the bait. That's a big mistake a lot of people make in the fall when the shad are coming in. You'll see people, they'll post a picture of where, just stacked from top to bottom. And it's like, chances are those are not walleye. They're probably shad. I think people don't realize how big shad get. The
right.
shad can get into the 20 plus range inch. So you mark a big school of 15 to 20 inch shad, it looks like you're sitting on the mother load of walleye, and you're not.
Right.
I like to be, if I'm marking fish on my fish finder and it's just stacked, I will actually keep going until it starts to thin out. I'll hit a waypoint and then turn around and stay on that outside of where I'm not, sitting on top of a ton of bait, and usually have pretty good success.
That's a great point. So what would be the next thing that you learned from the tournament?
Time management. you got to pay attention to the clock and how long it's going to take you to get back. And yeah, that's about it. Time management and sticking. My plan was I was just going to go fishing.
Right.
Not overthink things, just go fishing. And that's what we did. So hopefully it works out for the next one.
Right. Yeah, I think that's going to be, well, I don't want to jinx this, but it should be a fun event. Hopefully the walleye show up.
Hopefully Mother Nature cooperates.
Right.
April Ohio weather is a battle in itself.
Yeah, it is. One thing I wanted to talk about was your worst day out on Lake Erie.
My worst day.
If you could think about the one day where, maybe you made a mistake in judgment, or you didn't realize the storm was coming in, or something happened where, you had to fight off the storm, you made it back. And most importantly, you learned, a valuable lesson of the conditions, or how your boat handled, or, what drive you have, or.
That's a good storyline there. I actually went out with a coworker. This was before I owned a boat, and we knew that there were some storms coming in the afternoon, but we were gonna get our fish before these storms come in. And if you've ever been on Lake Erie when a storm, and they say pop up, they literally pop up. We were heading out of the Huron River. We were gonna go perch fishing, and a buddy's dad called him and said, "You're not going out, are you?" He said, "Yeah." So we're not going far from the river. He said, "Well, there's storms coming." But if you looked around, it was, blue skies. We didn't see any storms, and we're like, we're good. We're just going to be outside the river, which we were. We went outside the river, and this was in a bass boat. He had a Ranger, I think it was a 20 footer, I think, Ranger bass boat. We anchor, we start catching perch. Long story short, I think we needed like 5 or 6 more fish. And we noticed that it was getting dark off in the distance. And I said, "Hey, it's getting dark, I was like, "You think we should head in?" He said, "Oh, we're only 2 minutes from the river. Let's try to get these last 5 fish." Well, probably within 5 minutes of him saying that, it started to rain, and the wind just picked up. Like, as soon as the rain started, the wind just kicked up. So we are digging out our rain gear. By the time we got our rain gear on, it went from flat to about 4 footers, which is not fun in a bass boat. And we both agreed that just staying put with the anchor was our best bet. And we rode the storm out, and there was hail, huge gusts of wind. We took several over the bow, and the bilge pump, both of them just running the whole time. We only, I don't know, probably 10 minutes of really severe weather. And once it passed, we packed up, and I learned my lesson that even if you're close to shore, it gets dangerous real quick. Of course, this was before we had radar on our cell phones and everything, but we were warned. But luckily nothing serious happened. I just learned a good lesson. So now, if I'm running a charter trip, or I'm constantly on the radar, even on days where it's not supposed to storm. I have seen storms just form over the lake, and I'm I'm starting to pull lines and people are looking at me like, what have you done? Like, it's time to go.
Right.
There's been several times that, I know more than put the boat on the trailer and bam, it's like all hell breaks loose. These people are like, wow, I'm like, yeah, it's nothing to play around with.
I think it just comes with experience. You start getting that natural feeling, when
Yeah,
something changes, something's not right. The hair on the back of your neck stands up and you're like, oh, I better check the radar. I've seen this before.
yeah,
I've seen it where we keep our head on a swivel, constantly watching for storms and boats and stuff like that. But you can't see a storm coming from the south until it's pretty much
yeah,
on top of you,
very
you
true.
know. And sometimes they don't really show up on the radar either.
No,
I've seen that.
yeah, same here.
But the more you're out there, um, you just gain that experience. And I think the most important thing is, just trust in your gut, you know, like you do. And I mean, I'm in a kayak, so if my gut says, hey, it's time to go, there's no talking myself out of it. Like, come on,
Yeah,
I'll hook up to you, let's go.
it's definitely better to err on the side of caution. There has been a few times where it looked like a storm was heading our way, and I'm like, no, it was time to go. And we get back to the ramp, and I load the boat up, and we're waiting for it to pass, and it never came to fruition. But it's not worth it. It's better to. I'd rather be on the shoreline when a storm comes in than out on the lake because it really does kick up fast.
Yeah, Lake Erie is definitely nothing to mess with. um
No,
I'm sure you listened to the podcast a couple of weeks ago with Jerry,
yeah,
my neighbor.
that was an excellent podcast. That was a good story.
Oh, thank you. But you know if you're not careful, she can definitely get you. So
Hmm.
it's always best to be safe, always best to trust your gut and get off the water to fish another day, for sure.
Absolutely.
We will be back after the short break. Today's podcast brought to you by Lake Erie Kayak Fishing.com. Come along with me and experience one of the best freshwater fisheries in the world while chasing monsters kayak fishing Lake Erie. We now return to the show. So, what's your personal best?
My personal best is a little over 12 pounds. I don't remember the ounces, so I just go to 12 something for 31 inches.
Nice.
I caught it on Easter Sunday. It's been probably 7 years or so now. I've gotten plenty of 11s and 10s. I'm shooting for that teener. I haven't gotten my teener. That's what I want. We've hit 12 a few times, but yeah, I'm looking for that 13 plus. It'll happen eventually.
Especially during the fall.
Yeah.
So, when did you decide to become a charter captain?
Well, this is my 4th year doing it. Um, I just it, it was a difficult decision because I'm not. I don't know how to say. I don't come off as very like I never would consider myself an expert or a professional. I don't like that term. Um, I would say when I started going out and I noticed that I was limiting out regularly, um, compared to other people, I noticed like, hey, this guy, these people didn't limit out, and I was consistently limiting out, limiting out, limiting out. I thought, maybe I could do this, and I took my captain's course and passed it. And I'll tell you what, the very first charter I ran, I don't think I've ever been so nervous in my life. And I was just the thought that somebody is paying me money to take them fishing. And of course, the fear of failure was there. And prior to that trip, I don't remember the last time I got a tangle while trolling. And within the first 20 minutes, we had a big tangle. And I thought, oh no, this is not going to end well, you know. But we ended up having a good day. And after the second or third trip, then it was just going fishing again. But yeah, I guess that's why I decided to guide. I like taking people fishing. I took a lot of coworkers and family members, and I enjoyed teaching people, and that's what keeps me going. Is I like, you know, teaching and passing on the sport for sure.
Yeah, it's great catching a fish, but it's awesome watching somebody else catch a fish, especially
Absolutely.
especially something that they're not used to catching, or on a technique that they just learned, they just dialed in. Like,
Yeah,
that's the best thing in the world.
yeah, and I tell you, we're very spoiled here. You know, get used to catching fish, so many fish plus big fish. You know, catching a 8, 9 pound fish is always nice, but it's like, you know, it's 10, I guess, is kind of the benchmark. But then you see people that don't fish as much as you, or maybe, you know, they're not as experienced, or where they're from, the fish just aren't that big, you know. And to see someone else get so excited about, it kind of brings you back down to earth, like, okay, you know, this is something special. Whereas, to us, we go out every day and it's like, 7, 8 pounders is not bad. It's Lake Erie it's something else for
It's a
sure.
magical place.
It absolutely is.
I mean, look what it lets us do. We get the opportunity to go out, take people fishing, talk about fishing, surround ourselves with fishing stuff and boats, and just, I don't know, man. I couldn't imagine myself anywhere else.
No, me either. I definitely could never move from here. Maybe in the winter
Right.
if it freezes up, but yeah, I don't see me going anywhere.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe, after the end of the brawl in December, to back when the fishing shows start opening back up,
Yeah,
maybe in February, travel south, do some kayak fishing in the ocean or something. I
yeah,
don't know.
lots of harbors and stuff in Florida. That would be fun.
Yeah. I start feeling like that at the end of winter, because at the beginning of winter, it's exciting, it's fun.
Right.
You kind of I get addicted to like swimming in the cold water and just pushing the elements and stuff like that. But by the end of winter, we're what, 6 months in approximately. You're like, man, I'm just over it. Next year, I'm not even gonna deal with it. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, you'll be back out there again.
If the lake doesn't freeze, I have no reason to leave.
Yeah, same. Absolutely.
Ice fishing's okay for, like, I don't know, the first half hour, 40 minutes. Sitting there watching the screen for 3 hours, not seeing any fish or marking any fish or catching any fish. I don't know.
I'm not a big ice fisherman either. I enjoy doing it, but it's not my thing. I think it's either your thing or it's not.
Right.
And it's really not. I could do without it. I'd rather be in a boat all year
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, me too. So how can people find your guide service?
You can go to www.mealsonreels, and Reelz is spelled with a Z, not an S. So mealsonreels.com. I'm on Instagram also, same Meals on Reels. Facebook, pretty active on social media. I post reports pretty much daily. Yeah, that's probably the best way is Facebook. You can go through all my stuff, or I post something every day that I fish. It might not be a full detailed report, but you'll at least get a picture of, hey, we got them.
Yeah.
But I try to type out a report every day. Some days I just don't have time, but yeah.
And some days, especially on the days when Lake Erie is nice for a long stretch, you're so busy getting ready for the next trip for the next 4 or 5
Yeah.
days. You try to put something together, but it just it gets so busy. But that's a great problem to have, right?
Yeah, great problem to have. Yeah. And typing reports, I hope people appreciate that I type reports, because I could just as easily just post a picture of people and say, we caught fish today, back at it tomorrow, but I like to try to help people out. I'm not as specific with spots anymore, because I found that more people read my stuff than I thought. There there were several times where I was the only boat, and I wouldn't ever give you the exact location, but I might say I'm southeast of Kelly's, and then the next day there's 100 boats there, and I'm like, okay, I
Right.
got to kind of pull the reins back on that a little bit. But as far as
You know,
technique, feeds, lures, you know, all the details I will post.
a
I'll give
buddy of
you an
mine,
approximate area.
Jeff Little, he does a lot of content and fishes a lot of places and stuff. And one of the things that he always says is processes, not places. That way
Correct.
you're not really blowing up somebody's spot or blowing up all this stuff, but you're teaching people the techniques, how to catch them. At the end of the day, people should just go find their own fish, because they're going to learn so much from that.
Yeah,
It's just our job to give them a little bit of technique and guidance, and make them a better angler, right?
exactly. And I help a lot of people out, but like you said, I like to teach the process and not the spot, because you're going to learn more about fishing if you know why we're doing a particular technique and where we're doing it, versus just what's your GPS numbers, and how far back should I run my lures. Well, that might help you today, but it's not going to help you tomorrow. If the
Right.
fish moved and you don't know why they moved, or why we're running spoons and not, perfect tens in July. It's
Right.
there's a lot of information to take in, and that would be my biggest. If you're learning, learn every technique you can. Focus less on what color lure somebody's using or where they're fishing. All you need is an area, and and fine tune your technique. When I was learning, that's what I did. I read every captain's reports that I could find, but I never ever messaged one and said, "Hey, where are you fishing?" I get a lot of that, and I don't have time to. I can't respond to 30 people telling you where, and as much as I love to help people, it's just I can't help everybody in that way. So
Right.
that's
There is
that.
a great way to find out where Bobby Greene is fishing, and that is to head over to the Meals on Reels website and book a trip with him. I'll make sure to leave all that stuff in the description as well.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. And we do a lot of learning trips too. It's what a lot of people, some people don't realize that I am a hands-on person. I want to teach you. But if you don't, want to learn anything and you just want to reel in fish, that's fine too. But I do a lot of learning trips, lots of them. I take people out that have their own boats. I would say almost as much as people that don't have boats. So
You've even taken a couple of my clients out.
yeah,
Kathy Graves
yep.
last year, she came down to kayak fish, and then her and her husband went out with you, and learned a bunch of new techniques and new styles.
Yep, I think she got her personal best if I remember right.
Yep.
I don't remember. I think maybe it was a 30-incher if I remember right. Or close to it. 29,
That's what I
30,
think it
somewhere
was
in there.
29 and a half, maybe even
Somewhere.
30.
I know it was close to 30. So she was pretty excited about that.
Yeah. They're great people.
Yeah, I agree.
Man, that's awesome. So why don't we do a little shout out to your sponsors? Because I know you're on the Clemens Boats fishing team.
Yep. Yeah, huge shout out to Jason Clemens. Yeah, he's the owner of Clemens Boats. Definitely wouldn't be where I am without them. I've been a customer of theirs for a long time. I kept my tracker at Clemens Boats. They have storage there. And I've dealt with their service department and, Jason for years, and it just kind of come together when I was looking to get in a yard craft. So, which they're selling yard crafts and bass cats now. So shout out to Clemens Boats, definitely. Offshore tackle, best boards in my opinion. Offshore, made in America. Can't get much better than that.
Nope.
Walleye Nation Creations. They were actually the first ones to ever bring me onto a staff at all. So definitely shout out to Walleye Nation Creations. Hook and Drag and Fishing Addiction. I know Fishing Addiction gear, I get asked about the board caddies pretty much almost every day. Hey, where'd you get them board caddies? Hey, where'd them board caddies? I've actually had a few people mistake me for the guy that owns that company. I'm like, no. I don't own the company. Here's this card.
Right.
So yeah, huge shout out to everybody that supports me. I truly, truly appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think when you work hard and you're genuine, everything just works out. The right people show up in your corner. I think it's great, man. I think what you're doing is awesome.
I appreciate it. I never would have thought in a million years that I would have the success that I've had. And I'm just gonna keep taking people fishing and stay humble, and I'm just a down to earth person, regular old guy, got lucky. That's all.
Yep. You know what they say, overnight success is 10 years in the making. So I'm
Yeah.
sure it took a ton of work to get to this point.
Oh yeah, definitely. Lots of work, lots of behind the scenes stuff. But I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yep. Awesome. Are you fishing the next loot event?
Yeah.
The
Yep.
the
The
jig
Loot
and
and
cast?
the MWC, both of
Oh,
them.
okay. That's Sandusky, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right in my
Yeah.
backyard.
Nice.
Hometown
Yeah.
advantage, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be fishing that one too. I'll probably play around in the cast and jig open a little bit just for fun.
Yeah.
Learn some new things. And then Sandusky's gonna be good. I think
Yeah.
I think it'll be a little bit easier for me. Hopefully the weather's good and I can get some good pre-fishing days.
Yeah, that's half
Leading
the
up to McGee,
battle,
I
that's for
couldn't.
sure.
Yep. Well, hey, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do another one. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know, halfway through the season, once we both kind of figure all this tournament stuff out. And I don't know, there's a lot to learn, but that's the magical part.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely will come back again. Just give me a holler.
Oh yeah, definitely will do. All right,
All
guys.
right.
Thanks for joining.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
You too.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the show. Don't forget to leave us a review and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening app. We will see you on the next episode. And remember, for me, fishing is life.